In politics, power is a fragile thing. One moment you hold the nation in your grip, the next it slips like dust through your fingers. Faure Gnassingbé, the man who ruled Togo for nearly 2 decades, never expected it to end like this. But what happened in those final minutes changed everything. Main script begins. For years, Faure Gnassingbé was more than just a president. He was a symbol of continuity in Togo. The son of Gnassingbé Eyadema, who ruled for 38 years, Faure stepped into power in 2005 under a cloud of controversy, but he held on. Elections came and went, protests erupted, international criticism surged. But Faure endured. Or so it seemed. But power, as always, has an expiration date, and sometimes the end comes not with a bang, but in an eerie, almost silent collapse. It began with whispers, discontent within his own party, fractures forming in the military ranks, and outside a new force was rising. Ibrahim. No last name, no long speeches, no clear manifesto, just Ibrahim. He was a symbol, a movement, a voice rising from the ground, not from the podium. Some called him a populist, others a revolutionary. But to Faure, he was something far more dangerous, a mirror. Because Ibrahim showed the people what Faure could never give them, a future that didn't feel chained to the past. And then it happened. Some men wear power like armor. Others wear it like a curse. General Kondo was one of those men, feared, respected, untouched by bullets or ballots. Until one morning, his name disappeared, not from the newspapers, but from the mouths of his own soldiers. This is the story of the man who vanished without falling. Main script begins. For over 12 years, General Kondo was the invisible force behind Togo's stability, or its silence, depending on who you asked. He didn't speak to the media. He didn't wave at crowds. He didn't smile. He commanded. When Faure Gnassingbé was president, Kondo was his shadow. Every political decision had to pass through his eyes before it reached the ears of the army. And when Faure left, many believed Kondo would rise. But power isn't inherited from ghosts. 2 weeks after Ibrahim emerged, rumors began to spread. General, Kondo was missing. Not arrested, not exiled, not assassinated. Missing. His residence was untouched. His staff still reported for duty. His office was cleaned every morning as if he might walk in. But the general was gone. Some say he was last seen entering a secure bunker in northern Lomé. Others claim he boarded a private jet bound for Kigali. A few whisper he never left the country at all, that he lives now under a false name in the outskirts of Kara, watching the new regime like a hunter in the trees. But here's the truth. Kondo disappeared long before he physically vanished. When Faure's grip slipped, so did the generals. The new order didn't need strong men, it needed silence, it needed invisibility. And Kondo was too loud, even without words. Reports emerged, quiet purges inside the barracks, promotions bypassing the old ranks, loyalty shifting, not out of fear, but out of fatigue. The soldiers who once stood at attention now stood in confusion. Who are we serving? Who leads us now? And in that confusion, the general evaporated. No bullet, no trial, no announcement. A man built entirely out of presence, defeated by absence. Closing narration. They say some leaders fall, others fade. But General Kondo did neither. He disappeared, not into exile, but into legend. Maybe one day a name will surface. A face in a crowd will look too familiar, and someone will whisper, "That was him." But until then, the question remains. What happens to power when even fear forgets your name? The moment. 4 minutes. That's all it took. Faure was in the presidential compound. He had just exited a meeting with senior advisors, tense, urgent, faces drawn. Reports were circulating. Something was wrong. Something was moving. A convoy approached, not one of his. The presidential guards did not salute. Phones buzzed. Radios crackled. A call came in, from within the military high command. Every revolution begins with unity. But unity doesn't last. It never does. What holds a movement together in the streets rarely survives the silence of power. And Ibrahim was about to learn that the hardest part of leading isn't overthrowing the old, it's surviving the new. Main script begins. It was only 12 days after Faure Gnassingbé left power. Togo was quiet. Not at peace, and just quiet. There were no grand speeches, no elections, no anthem of change. Only Ibrahim, the man with no title, sitting at the center of the nation, trying to turn momentum into government. His closest ally at the time was Colonel Chala, the architect of the transition. Some said it was Chala who convinced key military units to stand down. Others believed he had been planning Faure's exit for years. But what no one knew was how quickly the loyalty that builds revolutions can fracture under fluorescent lights and polished floors. The moment came in a corridor, not a battlefield, not a press room. A corridor outside the temporary governing office in Lomé. Ibrahim was walking toward a closed meeting room. Inside were 10 of the Transitional Council's most trusted voices. But standing in the hallway was Colonel Chala, alone, silent, waiting. Their eyes met. No words, just wait. Then, without breaking eye contact, Chala said one sentence. "This is not what we agreed on." What followed was not an argument. It was a moment of realization. 2 men. One vision, now split. Chala wanted structure.